This episode of Dean Attempts to Learn is brought to you by Sheet Happens, where you can purchase guitar and bass tablature books edited and approved by the musicians themselves. If you're a fan of learning awesome music, head over to their website at sheethappenspublishing.com and use code word DEAN at checkout for 15% off. That's code word DEAN for 15% off. All right, well, welcome back. Hey, today we're going to do another one of the Ask the Artist videos. So I was speaking with my friend Brody Uttley of the awesome band Rivers of Nihil, and he suggested that I look over the solo for the song The Silent Life. And how this video is going to go is I'm going to look over the solo, see if I can learn it, and then in a couple of days, actually, we're going to do a Skype call or a Zoom call or whatever we're doing, and talk about the solo, what he was thinking when he was writing it, and if I played it poorly or not. I remember the last video I did in this series with Misha Mansour of Periphery, check it out here. I didn't get very far with the solo or the riff that he suggested because they were really hard. So I have listened to this and it doesn't sound quite as mind-numbingly difficult. So we're gonna check it out. I am working off of the official tab from sheethappenspublishing.com, and so that's what we're gonna be hearing today. I'll link the actual song in the description. I'm going to go over it in standard tuning. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. One thing that you can think of when you're playing this kind of stuff, if you do a tap and a bend or tap and vibrato, use your left hand for the bend or the vibrato. Don't use your right hand. All right, so I think I have that memorized. And then it does. I think it was major there, doesn't it? All right, let me try to play that along with the old track there. What a cool solo, dude. So expressive sounding. All right, then we're going to... Okay, so it might look shitty because I just played this very weird arpeggio and I probably made it look kind of easy. I have been practicing this exact shape since I heard Steve Vai play it in the early 2000s when I first heard it. He'd been doing it for a long time before that. It's a really cool shape and Brody's put his own spin on it, which is awesome. But that is a tough arpeggio to play. So props to Brody for pulling that off. I know that Brody plays with a little bit thicker of a gauge string than I do as well. So those bends are doubly difficult when he's playing them, but they'll sound a bit better. I'm fucking blowing it here. All right, let's try with the track. Okay. It'd be tough to memorize that, but that's okay. Next part. Okay. Let's see what that sounds like. I think that's it. Let's try 80% speed. All right, a little bit faster. Let's try it at 100%, and then I feel like I'm probably ready to show it to Brody and see what he thinks. All right, last time. All right. Well, let's see what Brody thinks of my playing. And here's where we're going to transition into the next part of the video. Whoosh. So, I'm here with Brody Uttley of Rivers of Nihil. Once again, Brody, how are you doing?
I'm excellent, Dean. How are you?
Fine. Okay, great. Okay, so the solo you suggested us with the song Silent Life. I feel like I did a pretty good job in the playthrough that I filmed yesterday or the day before. Here it is. Yeah, what's your takeaway? You're like watching somebody else play your solo. It's weird, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool to see how different players interpret other players' vibrato. It's not necessarily better or worse, you know, it's just different. Like I noticed, I don't know what note, where you were playing it because we're tuned differently, but you did like somewhere near the beginning you played, oh. You did something with that note. You did some like weird like semitonal bend that sounded really neat. And that last run that you were doing, it's literally just me ripping off Glasgow Kiss. It's just a right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess like I do a lot of like the string raking stuff, you know, on like those bigger bends. Like even the beginning. You know, it's like depending on how you're feeling that night, bend things a little differently or whatever.
Those first 4 bars, were those the first things for the solo that you wrote?
I think they were. I think that was one of the solos that I wrote sequentially, like just kind of from start to end. Although I probably had that ascending fifths thing already planned out. Like I knew I wanted that to be kind of like the peak of the solo, or you know what I mean? And I kind of based everything around knowing that I was going to be hitting that at some point. So that's probably what happened. But yeah, other than that, I definitely started with the beginning of the solo.
I hear the beginning and I go, you spend, let's say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes trying to write the beginning of the solo, and you get something that looks and sounds kind of like what you got here. Maybe it changed a little bit from then to the finished product. Were you frustrated at that point to go, okay, where the fuck do I go from here? Do you get sort of discouraged at that point?
I don't know if I got discouraged necessarily, but I would say that whenever I'm writing solos, something that I always try to keep in mind is that hitting like the highest note in a solo, that's kind of for me like the point of no return. You have to like handle everything after that with like pretty great care and make it count. You got to get your what's the saying, your chickens in a row? I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Your shrimp in line.
You got to get your shrimp in a troop.
Shrimp in the basket. Yeah.
That takes us to our sponsor, Red Lobster. Let's do one other part of the solo, and then I got a couple questions from our Discord server, and then I'll let you go. Cool. So this fifths ascending thing. It's a really cool run. You mentioned in a message before we got on the Zoom call that you ripped it off from Steve Vai, and I think you said that here too. As someone who has listened to hundreds of hours of Steve Vai, I have also ripped off that run. What a cool sounding run that is. What is it about it that you like?
I don't know. It just has this kind of like airy quality to it, I guess. I'm kind of like a guy who likes to shoehorn like abnormally happy sounding stuff into really sad chord progressions. He even does it, you know, on what's the song, Whispering a Prayer, where he like, I always thought that was like a really cool sound, and like if I am teaching a lesson and someone, asked me about this solo, and they don't have like a whole lot of theoretical knowledge or anything like that. Like, very simple way of putting it is like, oh, you're just stacking power chords. And anyone who hears that goes, oh, power chords, I know how to do that. I mean, Steve Vai, the older I get and the more stuff that I write, the more I realize that even though like I wouldn't consider him to be like a current influence for me, like just like that I'm actively listening to him, whenever I'm like writing, chord progressions or leads or anything like that, like he's always in there. He's great.
He's great. And if you can paint the 80s shredders with certain modes as colors, you can paint him with Lydian, and you can paint Yngwie Malmsteen with Phrygian Dominant.
Yep.
I mean, those two guys took those two modes and they made them their thing. Okay, so I've got a few questions from our Discord server. Sure. We got through most of that solo. I think that we talked about it enough. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, fucking whatever. It's my show. Handpicked master grade questions from the Discord server. So now I omitted some of the usernames because one of them was Poop Master, so I just kept that out of there, even though now I just said it. So anyway, these are anonymous questions. The first question is, I'd love to know how he EQs the guitars and bass to compensate for the low tuning they use, and the kind of settings to get a great tone out of all the beautiful chord voicings in their songs.
As far as like generally EQing this stuff goes, I mean, I always like turn the mid-range up quite a bit. We use Kemper profiling amps, so we'll take a profile of the amps that we use on the record, and then I'll have them, and then usually when I get them home to my studio setup here, I'll EQ them, because obviously like a tone on a record is not going to necessarily work the same way that it would work live, so I change them around a little bit. I'll usually end up cutting out a decent bit of the presence. I like darker sounding amps, like Mesa Boogies and stuff like that. I usually end up taking a lot of presence out of our sound, like both rhythm and lead wise, boosting mids. And the one trick that actually it was Wes that let me in on this. The one thing that I've come across that really kind of just does something really awesome to a guitar's sound is boosting 2.5K by like 2 dB. And what that does, and this helps with our low tuning as well, so it does relate to the question. What that does is it kind of brings out this mid-range quality that just really turns up like the pick attack. Like it just it just does something. Like it just makes it just like so much more aggressive and just out front. When you boost like that 2.5, it's just like, here it is, if you blow it, like the whole room is going to hear it, especially, if I mean, Joel, who usually mixes us, I mean, I know he like boosts the mid-range even more on the front of house signal.
So note to self, do not boost 2.5K for live. Fuck that.
Yes. Turn it off. Get rid of it. Why is it even there?
The next question from the Discord server is, how did he, and I assume they're talking about you, develop such tasty tapping chops?
I mean, do I have tasty tappy chops? I don't know.
I think you do. And we were talking about earlier, the solo that I learned previous to this had some really cool harmonic tapping stuff in there.
Like where it stemmed from, I do a lot of the in the solo that you learned in Hollow, the kind of like major 7 or minor 7, but spread out across 3 strings. Right. Instead of playing it as a sweep, tapping the notes out. I think what really like triggered that for me was actually Paul Gilbert, because I don't know if you remember, but on the Intense Rock video, he does this. It's only on 2 strings, but he does like a minor 7 idea where he's just it's just like 2 strings, and I thought that was the coolest sound ever. And then I kind of forgot about it for a while, and then Cosmogenesis came out.
Oh, totally.
And I was like, what is that sound? Like, is that a guitar? Is that a synthesizer? Like, what is he doing? And so I think when I heard Christian Munzer playing those solos on Cosmogenesis, like I was just like, I have to learn whatever that is. And I think that's what started it for me.
Yeah, and it's really cool techniques and stuff. All the harmonics. Oh my God, dude, it's so cool. Now to kind of wrap things up, is there anything you wanted to plug?
Well, as of a few months ago, I started streaming on Twitch. I'm revisiting some pre-production sessions from Where Owls Know My Name. We're kind of like at the tail end of that. Doing some writing. I've been doing some like general death metal writing on there. Not necessarily anything I'll use for Rivers, but just like letting people in on my process. It's great. I've been having fun, and yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I'm learning a lot.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for taking the time. I think I did okay, and so if you want, just send me a check in the mail for the next tour in advance. So when I cover for you, just for this, I'm not going to learn the rest of your music. Just the one one solo. I'll jump out on stage, play that solo for you. You can pay me in advance, and that would be great. I'll give you my payment information, my banking information.
I'll get BMI and Ride-In royalties on it so they can get you squared away.
All right, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
All right.